I feel like you're kind of wired like me, where there's just a love of the process for finding them, hunting them, and figuring out new places. And it's a pretty consistent thing. We've kind of split. Hunting expert's a weird term, right? But we use it
Yeah.
all the time, or people use it all the time. And so you've got hunting experts who've mastered 1,000 acres in southern Iowa, and they kill 170 inches every year in the same section or whatever. And then you've got these other guys who very rarely kill in the same place twice, or will go to different states and do it. And when I talk to those guys, a lot of times I just go, these are the people who seem to really have this figured out, because they just have so many more kind of styles they can rely on and tactics. And they always have a love of scouting, which is like this theme that it's like an undercurrent to all of the pressure deer killers out there. They love to scout, and they love to experience new ground, whether out of state or in state. And I think all of that just ties in and kind of layers itself in somebody who looks at every situation and goes, okay, I got so much to draw from here. This is what we're trying in this spot.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I would go bananas if I had just one farm that I managed. And like you said, I love the challenge of just tackling new areas and new terrain. And I've always had this, like, I don't know, this just drive or feeling inside that I want to improve. And I feel like if I just hunt one place, and I know, my food plots are here and the bedding's here, and this is the way the deer travel through. And, I got, Megatron and Gnarls Barkley, and you know what I mean? Like, that stuff just, I don't know. That would drive me nuts. You're not really getting better. You're getting better as maybe a deer manager and a property specialist, I guess you could say. But as far as like hunting skill and woodsmanship and just being able to go anywhere and to get on nice deer, that's what I strive for. And that's what I'm at my best, to be honest with you. I enjoy hunting Michigan. It's my home turf. I know it well. It's a grind, and it's very rewarding. But I have the most fun when I go to a brand new area that I know nothing about, and I start from scratch, and I get my boots on the ground and scout and try to figure things out and try to pull a nice deer out.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what gives me the best feeling when it comes to hunting.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's, I mean, that comes up on this podcast a lot, and I feel like when you do that, you just own the entire process. And it's so exciting knowing, you pulled this tag or that tag. Like I'm going to draw an Iowa tag this year, and I've hunted twice down there in my life on private farms I had permission to hunt, and had good hunts both times, killed big bucks. But I'm hunting public this year in a totally different zone. And I just love like the anticipation. And, I've been down there to scout a little bit and looking at the maps and looking at the aerial photography. And then, when you get there, you have to implement all that, and you just own the process from, just thinking, hey, do I want to hunt this state or do I want to hunt this place, to hopefully, either dragging a deer out, carting a deer out, or piecing it out and carrying it out. And it's just like you have the entirety of that experience, and there's just nothing better.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I love it. It seems like every year, I mean, I started with one out of state trip and then Michigan. And then shortly after that, it was like, 2 out of state trips and then 3. And now I'm trying to figure out how I can fit 4 and 5 and still not, not, completely screw the family over. So it's like, I just love that part of it. And, how I've been able to do it is, I work at a school, so I don't even get vacation time, which is, a lot of people are just like, how do you do it? Well, I utilize long weekends. I'm not afraid to drive, like I drove 14 hours to Nebraska to hunt for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, to me, that's worth it. You know what I mean? You gotta just do that. I'll call in sick a few here, like on a Friday or a Monday. We do have some sick time. But I started utilizing, other months other than your typical like October and November, December, which is basically Michigan's Michigan season. So then I started focusing on states that opened up in September.
Yep.
You know, you got your Kentuckys and some of the more Western states. So then I was able to get in like a whole nother trip, you know, and then I started looking at doing research. I'm like, man, there's some states that open up in August, you know? So I started doing the antelope hunting, and this year I'm going to do Nevada. And, you know, so now I'm kind of spreading out those trips. I'm going to have a trip in August. I'm going to have a trip in September. I'll probably hunt home, you know, around October. November, I'm going to be going to Iowa just like you. I'll probably go out to Nebraska again. And then even in December now, the last 2 years, I've started taking an out of state trip in December, kind of when things are slowing down here. And, you know, it's kind of like after our gun season, just for that experience, you know, for that challenge. I just can't get enough of it. And it's like every year I'll go back to some places that I know so that I can build on them a little bit. But then I always try to throw in like one or two just brand new experiences, never been there before. Because like you, I just love that.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't, I almost would rather do that and, you know, pull out a nice, you know, put a tag on a nice a 3-year-old or 4-year-old 130-inch buck than hunting here where I know and shooting something like that was like 150. I don't know. I just like that experience. It's like a new adventure, and the unknown is really attractive to me.
Oh man, I hear you there. Most people look at this, you know, there's a couple things going on here. You know, the first thing is we've been conditioned, and you kind of alluded to this, like the hunting media has told us you can save bucks and you can save spots for the perfect moon phase and the perfect conditions and all this stuff. And the average guy buys into that, not thinking, okay, where's this information come from? This comes from people who are managing properties, and nobody else is going to go in there and spook them. No small game hunters, no other bow hunters. Those deer are going to be on their patterns and doing their thing. So yeah, you can strike when it's perfect conditions there. You can't do that. Most people don't have that luxury, and you really don't have that luxury when you travel out of state and you have limited time. So you get into this kind of, like you mentioned, more aggressive mode, and you take some more risks. And what you learn in those situations is you can get away with a lot of stuff. Like you can get away with way more than people think, even when it comes to mature bucks, where people think, you know, like you make one mistake, you're done. Like, no, that's not the case in a lot of places, even on public land where they get pressured. And, you know, I always think when you're out there doing that stuff and you see, okay, you spook these deer walking into this water hole to check it, or, you know, jump this buck who was feeding the beans when you walked in the first time to glass it, you think, oh, I'm over. And then you stick to it and you go, that deer didn't go anywhere. Those deer are still coming in there to drink. They're still coming in there to feed. You might have to alter your strategy a little bit, but you just learn that nice balance between playing it real safe, which sometimes you have the luxury of, depending on time and where you're hunting, and actually getting after it a little bit and trying some stuff out. And that's like the basis for this mobile strategy that's so popular right now, is people go, oh, I'm gonna go in and my first sit I'm gonna kill. And it's like, yeah, that's, you know, we've known that a long time. Like, that's not a revolutionary thing, but it has to be done. You know, you have to know what you're doing still. You can't just walk in like blindly set up and hope it happens. There's so much that goes into those decisions, and all of that, like we talked about before, is just layered in there from experiences in different places, different properties, different states. And you just kind of go, man, I got a lot to pull from here. This is how I'm going to do this. And you see how often it works, even on a 3-day hunt.
Yeah, well, I've talked about this before, and I think maybe it's my own unique take on it. But what I think is when you take that more of that aggressive approach kind of early on, which I literally did, like I remember the second year I hunted, I was like a hang and hunt guy. Yep. And not that I read anything about it. It was just, I kept moving to where I saw a deer. I had one stand. I would see, you know, I'd sit and I'd see deer over there. So I'd go hunt over there the next day. And then I'd see this buck do this, and I'd go over there. And that's just what I did. I made a ton of mistakes, all, you know, for years and years and years. So many mistakes, so many screw ups, but I would find success through persistence. But what I think happens is when you have that aggressive approach, it forces you to kind of, it throws you into the chess match, right? and then you screw up and you make these mistakes. Well, every mistake you make, you're kind of like, that goes into your brain, and it's like you start to develop this, I call it like an instinct of decision making, because you've pushed the envelope and you've failed. So then you start to develop, okay, that was too much. And then maybe the next time you're in a similar situation, you back off a little. Okay, that was too little. So you're fine tuning this instinctual decision making. You got to go through that period of time where you make those mistakes and you learn from them. And it takes years. It's not something you can just read or hear from somebody. You got to learn that on the ground. That'll give you a little bit reading and learning from guys, but it'll give you a little bit of head start. But you really need to learn that stuff through the trial and error. You gotta walk through the fire
Yep.
to really learn that stuff.